solving is something that schools generally don't teach you.
No, I'm not on medication. I'm on weed though, and I feel hella good.
Why, hello. It's been a minute. I know. I've been out of town. Been busy. I've been busy doing shit, but I got some more books, more research. We're going to talk about some of that research today. So, some of the things we're going to talk about. Today we're going to talk about the law of vibration and Moses and thunder or skyquakes. You've heard of skyquakes, right? You know, the sky trumpets everybody hears about.
Strange sounds are being heard around the world.
Oh my God!
What is that?
Hör genau hin.
מאיפה זה מגיע?
He's also been having a lot of weird weather, right? Where is my... In this book, I showed you guys this book. I'll link it if I remember, but the Secret Teachings of All Times. This has the Hermetic teachings in it. Also the Kybellion. Very good. This one has it in here. The law of vibration, guys. So one thing me and my mentor have been going over after reading this book is there's a lot of interesting shit in here, and it's like, no wonder this is hidden from us. It talks a lot about, you know, like people from the tribe of Levi. Yeah, Taylor, I know what that is. Yeah, the Freemasons, you know, the whole, like, you know, Da Vinci Code that's free right now, based on real facts, except it's more than just the bloodline of Jesus that they're protecting. We'll get into that, though. We'll get into that. We'll also get into, I've been reading the Talmud, too. I got my Hebrew Bible. I got one of those now. So anyways, we're talking about Moses and the law of vibration. So one of the things that this book talks a lot about is how Moses, when he created hail and was doing the plagues in Egypt, one of the things he did was use the law of vibration, use sound outside of the city to stimulate the water molecules up in the air and freeze them and turn them into hail. You guys have all seen, and I'll insert in here, you know, where you can put a water bottle into the freezer, and right before it's about to freeze, you can take it out, and then by just hitting the water bottle, it instantly turns into ice. Well, same principle. You are using the vibration to disrupt the molecules and they freeze. Same concept. So If somebody has an airplane, like a small plane, a twin engine, and they're able to put speakers, you can take certain sound waves, put them through a cloud, and change the molecular structure of the water molecules in the air and manipulate it into doing something else.
Yeah, Maria, this one's pretty unusual. That chunk of ice falling from the sky. And right here in the grass, you can see where it left a divot, couple inches deep here. Now, everyone in this neighborhood is wondering where that ice came from.
You're getting it. It's the wheels are spinning, right? So what my mentor believes is that they're using sound in the sky from planes to disturb the water molecules. So, yeah, Moses was using the law of vibration. My cat agrees. It says in Exodus 9:33 through 34. 9:33. That's usually a clue, you guys. The way the Bible was set up, especially the Hebrew parts, which would be the tabernacle. Yeah. The way it is set up, it's also got a lot of things in it. It's, from what I understanding, it's like a zip file, you know? They try to encode a lot, so you have to spend time thinking about it and in symbolizing, and so it does take you time to learn what really is happening in the text. And then while you're getting to the truth of the text, you're learning all the symbolism, you're learning all the allegories, so that when you do get to the truth, you're mature enough to handle it. That's what my mentor said. That's why you'll read the Bible and it's got a lot of symbolism, and it's like, why is Daniel seeing something that sounds like a fucking, what is it, a leopard or something coming out with horns? I don't understand. It's so you have to decode all that, and you get all this symbolism, and while you're learning all those things, you're maturing. And then while you're maturing, by the time you get to the truth in here, you understand what you are looking at. So, my categories: skyquakes. That is them taking planes. They're flying through the sky and they're using certain frequencies. You've seen all those videos of people using different sound frequencies to manipulate water, to manipulate sand, and it makes different. Well, those frequencies translate. They can translate into patterns, into an image. They are a sound, something you hear, you see. You can feel vibrations. Think about it. All the senses get triggered through this form. We've talked about this. It's a medium, this vibration, which vibrations are something you can hear, you can feel, you can see. I don't know if you can taste them. I don't know. Have you ever tasted a vibration? I don't know. But do you see how you can change it, manipulate it? Oh, there's a circle. There's a square. There's the sign of the tribe of Levi. I know that too now, Brother Taylor, right? Right, Brother Taylor? Have you been reading Exodus 13, Brother Taylor? We're going to talk about that too. I've been reading the Talmud, guys. So, yeah. Harp uses technology that is like this too. So, harp uses a lot of like frequencies and things like that for the weather manipulation. The other thing too, my mentor was pointing out, is one of the things that they love to do is be like, look, a harp as in like a musical instrument. Well, we can use music or sound to manipulate weather, just like Moses did in Exodus, right? Right? Moses used sound in Exodus to help free them. The other thing you can do with water that we see Moses doing in Exodus is using the Ark of the Covenant to vibrate the water. I said you can do that. You can use different frequencies to manipulate the flow of water. You can make it go up. You can make it go up. Like you can have a flow, a river. You change the vibration and it's going up. It's going backwards. You got backwards rain. Like in Forrest Gump, you know, when he was describing all the different rain, it looked like it was backwards. So if you have a powerful enough machine, you can use it to displace water. So there is a pathway for you and your tribe of people to get through to the other side. And then when you turn it off, it just goes. The answers have been in front of us all along. We just aren't getting it. So there are people who are using these simple techniques like the law of vibration. My cat's looking at birds. He's talking to the birds. Like the law of vibration to manipulate weather. Okay? There's been a lot of weird weather off of Florida too. Where's that coming from? The law of vibration. Somebody, I bet, is taking a plane. I bet you could take a twin engine plane, put a loud ass fucking speaker, woofers, and drive through a cloud and make something happen. What is going on here? I had no idea that the Bible would help me explain what thunderquakes are. But yet, here we are. The Bible, the tabernacle, is helping me explain what the fuck is going on. I also have another book coming. We've been talking a lot about different things that people have confused. Remember I told you guys, Baal means Lord. Okay? So, who is the Lord? Baal can be any god, any pagan god, okay? One thing we'll get into eventually, once I get my other book. I got another book coming that talks about Moloch. So Moloch, if you actually do research and look into the Talmud, which the Talmud that Epstein's, he's related to somebody who translated the Talmud into English in the 50s. Jeffrey Epstein, right? I'm going to put a free link to a website that has every PDF of this Talmud, of the Babylonian Talmud that Epstein's relative translated. Because there's nowhere, and usually you have to buy it, but it's on this website. Let's see. Yeah, the Son. My Hebrew's not good. The Soncinio Babylonian Talmud by Dr. I. Epstein, which Epstein is related to the tribe of Levi. This tribe of Levi. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the tribe of Levi and the Conan priest line. And I've told you guys, so in here, this is really good for explaining a lot of stuff that's happening in here, or your regular Bible, like Moloch and Baal. So Moloch actually is not a deity. You've been lied to. You've been lied to. Moloch is not a deity, guys. It is not a god. It's not a god. It's not a goddess. It was never one. It was actually what Moloch means, and translate it, it means to pass through fire to the king, which was a symbolism for dedicating your child to the kingdom. And some people debate whether they would actually do this, You know where you see people walk on the coals, right? Well, they would do something where there was a fire and you kind of jumped over the fire and then you were dedicated to the king of the kingdom. Well, the Israelites, back during this time, you know, biblical times, the firstborn of, well, it was the firstborn of Israel. The firstborn son of an Israelite was dedicated to Israel. Well, now it's the firstborn of the Levite tribe. And it's a big deal for the priest class, the Conan priest class that's within this Levite tribe, which we're gonna talk about some more. But so Moloch means to pass through the fire and dedicate your kid to the king, and pass through the fire your kid to the king, the firstborn. And that can mean various things. Your kid's gonna work a job like for the king, you know, like they're gonna be a soldier, they're gonna be a knight, they're gonna be something for the king, right? Blah, 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 right? They're gonna, you know, work in the kitchen or something. I don't know. That's generally what that meant, right? It didn't mean you were working in the temple for the Jewish people or the Israelites. You see that? You see what I mean? You see what that is? Yeah. There's a big difference there. So you would see why Jewish people during this time would not like somebody dedicating their kid to, you know. So I'm also, the books I'm getting, so specifically when they talk about dedicating to the king or this Moloch, they're talking about the Phoenicians, the Semites, and the Carthaginians. I know, my pronunciation, it needs Carthaginians. And I'm getting a book that's going to talk about this, but I got pictures of some of these gods. Where are they? Where are the pictures of these gods? Yeah, see, there is, this one actually has another name. I forget his name. This, and this is your Moloch, guys. And it was like a mother goddess. And you remember from this Babylonian text, and a lot of things, it's just the king, the royalty was, they were divine. They were considered hybrids, okay? Generally, back in the day, royalty was considered hybrids. So you were considered half God, right? And that's why you were given this divine ship to rule. This book talks about that. That happened a lot of times. And it would also be reasons why they would want to, you know, off somebody's entire family or royal line as well. One thing we're going to get into, which we have to talk about, and we've seen in the Jeffrey Epstein files, is about World War II. And I've talked about World War II didn't end for some people. And World War II was not what we were told it was about, okay? We all know now that Schmittler, that dude, he is the bastard son of a Rothschild. So my mentor told me when I was talking and visiting with him is that Hitler's dad is not his real dad. That his mother got knocked up as a maid for the Rothschilds and was forced to marry a second cousin. They even had to get permission from the church so they could get married because they were cousins. And he was older, too. The guy was older, so she got knocked up. So everybody just assumed that was his father. But his father was actually a Rothschild. And the one thing we're going to be looking into was Hitler... It looks like Hitler was a plant for the Rothschilds, and that they were looking to squash out the competition of other Jewish bloodlines, and they were using him as the cover to do it. It also was a way to snuff out competition with, like, you know, wealth and banks and things. If you take a whole family's all their wealth away and they have to start over from zero, well, now you're on top. You're above them, right? Yeah. So that's something the Rothschilds, we're going to be looking into, did. The other thing, too, was their last name used to be different, and that's why I got this. Books made before World War II about Jewish history are a lot better than what came after World War II because it changed. They changed a lot of things to focus just on World War II and focus on what they wanted you to see, because World War II was not just about one thing. It was about multiple people's agendas. And some of those people were Jewish. Some of those people were looking to snuff out other Jewish families, because when the third temple gets built, this tribe of Levi, which there's only about 600,000 people who can genetically trace themselves to this tribe of Levi. Even less people to the priest class, okay? They're supposed to inherit some kind of wealth or something because of a covenant or something, you know, that because of an exodus when they helped and rose up against the golden calf. So they're supposed to like inherit. Let me do the Peter Mon thing. Hold on. Okay, so they're supposed to inherit, you know, the wealth and shit. Well, you're going to get more the less family there is around, right? Think of it like how here in America, here in the United States, we have, especially where I live, we have the Kuya tribe. We have Native American tribes, right? I was talking about Israeli biblical tribes. Now we're going to go over to United States Native American tribes. Where I live, we have the Kuyas. And one of the things the Kuyas got to do was when they were given their reservation land, a lot of times that land gets leased out and people will lease that land and people will build on it. And so like you own the house, but you're leasing the land from them. They also use it for, you know, to build their casinos on and stuff. Well, a lot of them get a check for the land lease. They just get a check every month, just like a check of money, right? The less people there are in your tribe of Levi, the more wealth is going to come to you, right? There's going to be less checks being put out, right? You know, it's kind of like when you win the lotto and it's just you, right? But if there's 2 winners winning the lotto or 3 winners winning the lotto, it's going to be split up more and you're going to get less, right? But if there's less families around that are a part of your tribe of Levi, you're going to have more wealth when God comes. Fucking disgusting, right? That is disgusting. And that is part of where the law of the firstborn being dedicated to the cult, to the Freemasons, because the Freemasons are there to protect things like bloodlines like this tribe of Levi bloodline. They're there to... I need more coffee for this. Okay, they're here to protect this tribe. And so one of the things they will do is surveillance people or send like, you know, that one agency from Izzy that a lot of people don't like, which one thing I learned from my mentor was he said that one agency from Izzy was like one of the only few ones that were willing to go after criminals after World War II. He said, you know, like, everybody puts them down and stuff, but, you know, after World War II, there was a lot of war criminals, like, was it Mingdala? Whatever his name is, you know, that weirdo, which we're going to talk about. There was a lot of them that escaped to South America and other places. I even have, there's something eventually we're going to talk about that has to do with my father that I learned through my mentor. It's just, I can't talk about it right now, but about someone who's just, when I was growing up, my dad, he was always living with people because his financial situation was always weird, and I now suspect he was doing other things for work. And I found out, he had told me later on after this woman had passed, and she was older, okay? When I was in high school, she was in her 90s. He told me she was former schnauzy youth, that she was in it as like a kid or like a teenager, and that it was just everything, that was just what you did, and it was just an unfortunate, that she was on that side. Well, I found out from my mentor because they just released in Germany like a website. I don't know German, but my mentor does. And you can go on there because people have lied about what their records were connected to. She was not in Nazi youth. Did you know that? If you're watching, she was higher up. I do think my father knew this. She had a husband, but he just disappeared after World War II. I don't know what happened. But she came to America after World War II and just rode around in a van. She still had the van. I remember when I was in middle school, high school growing up, my dad was living up there. And then he was living up with another lady who worked for a company that published like they published for Vanity Fair. She had every issue of Vanity Fair in her house. My dad lived on this lady's property, and then he lived on the other lady's property for a while, and then he would take care of their properties when they would go out of town and stuff. Okay, this lady worked for a magazine printing thing, and I was able to find later stuff where she knew like 10 different languages. But she lived on the East Coast and did this, and it was connected with some of the things that Andy Warhol was. One of the things, these two ladies, they knew a lot of artists. They knew a lot of artists who traveled back and forth with their horses between New Mexico and the higher desert, Yucca Valley, Morongo Valley area. And they lived, like, it was the people who had, like, second homes up there, and horses and things, and were, like, artists, but they traveled around for work and stuff, too. I remember never thinking very much of it when I was younger and stuff. And the house she lived in actually before was a movie producer's home and had a historic kind of thing with like Hollywood. It had a basement too. This house, this lady had a basement. And she built a door to the outside so she could have renters eventually. But it was really weird because generally in California, there's no basements. But this one had a basement with a bathroom down there. So you could theoretically, she rented it out and added a door. So yeah, the one lady was a higher up for, yeah, she got into doing the youth stuff and being a higher leader, but she was also involved in some of the darker black magic crap. And that's why I guess she had some of those books around her house. She also let a fucking tarantula live behind her toilet. And I thought, oh, you know, she's just, you know, letting she let this spider live behind her toilet for like 10 years or some shit. So, yeah. A little bit about my fucked up. Yeah. So, I was just sharing some of that with you. A lot of people... Oh, I gotta show you my cat. Look at my cat! Oh my goodness. Look at Timmy. Look at this box. Break time. Look at my kitty. So pretty in the box. Aww. Oh, cute. Cute Timmy. Yeah, okay, I gotta show you. But yeah. Oh, you're close. Not everything is always what you think. You know what I mean? Like, someone might tell you one thing, and then you research it, and it's maybe not as bad as you thought, or were told. Like, Baal could be any lord of what? During my research, there are rabbis that have Baal in the middle of their name. Because it just means Lord. That's all it means. So, we'll be talking more about Jeffrey Epstein, the tribal Levite, Hollywood. Apparently, Hollywood is obsessed with this tribal Levite because they're musical prodigy people. So, if you're related, they want you for music, apparently. So, yeah. I'm going to do some more reading. I got to make my Hebrew flashcards. I finally got a printer, guys. I got a printer. Yay. Me got a printer. So, yeah. We're back to vlogging. Talking about the things I'm learning. Giving you information so you can go out and maybe make your own videos, right? Because that's the point. This is not my information. This is just information that's out there that everybody should know, because we should just know everything. We have to know, because the more we know, the more we don't know, right? So, and any free books, I'm going to link them, because right now we're all broke and free. If I can give you something free, free is great. Da Vinci Code. Free on YouTube right now. Free. Free.
Are numb to it.
Later.
The electric age.
Jammies like usual. Yeah. So anyways, welcome to later. Blech. So yeah. Studying, whatnot. Like I said, I have my other book coming. My mentor does not think that the Rothschilds and Ghislaine Maxwell, her family, they might be Jewish, but they're also another religion, an old religion. And like I said, there are people who are still practicing these old Phoenician, Carthaginian religions. Mainly it's Phoenician, Babylonian. We'll be getting into all that more as I get those books, but I got this one. This one's good. Like I said, I really enjoyed the older books because they got a lot in here that, like, you know, that changed over the last 100 years, so, yeah. Where is my paper? It's just really interesting, you know, when you find out, like, Baal and Moloch. That's not what we've thought it really was. And so it's like somebody is trying, or has been trying, to make it about Jewish people when it hasn't been Jewish people. It's been people who are pretending to be Jewish. You see what I'm saying? Like I told you in the last vlog, I know there's a lot of stuff about anti-Israel and anti-Zionism, and there's a lot of anti-Semitism that is coming back up because of that. And it's because there's no one's explaining the real thing. No one's actually looking into the Jewish texts. You know, I had to print off, which I'm going to link, and actually reading it. There's a lot of other weird stuff in the Talmud that Jeffrey Epstein's family member translated. We talk a lot about hybrids, right? The more you know, the more you don't know. So, Let's talk about dolphins for a second. Gotta be quiet. My mom's trying to go to bed. Let's talk about dolphins. So, one of the things that's in the Talmud is it goes on about, like, because this whole Talmud here is about how there used to be, you know, like when the firstborn of like livestock, you gave it to Israel, which, you know, the temple, right? And instead of giving it to the king, right? The ruler, right? And that's what that whole Moloch thing is like, it's about not dedicating yourself to another entity other than the Jewish religion. That's basically what that was about. If there is somebody who's doing rituals like that, they might be part Jewish because, you know, part of their family is Jewish. But like, you know, how other inter-religion marriages work, you know, one person's Jewish. What is dad? What is mom? They're Phoenician. They're Babylonian. They are part of a hidden bloodline that has been hiding amongst other people to get away with shit. So anyways, we're getting into this. Oh. Where is this part? Here, about dolphins. This is in the Talmud, right? The Talmud that Jeffrey Epstein's family wrote. Let me get to the paper. I had to have this all printed out, given to me. Here we go. No, that's about the Levites. Let's see. Where is this? Maybe I skipped it. No, there it is. There it is. Make sure I keep all my pages together. I know, I need to get a binder for my one part of the Talmud, but okay. Dolphins are fruitful and multiply by coupling with human beings. Focus camera. My camera can't even believe what I just said. I will start over because the camera and you probably just like glitched out. According to the Talmud, I don't know, my mentor said it and I couldn't say it. But anyways, 8A. A is an apple. Do you hear my mom talking to the cats? Dolphins are fruitful and multiply by coupling with human beings. And then it goes, what are dolphins? Said Rabbi Judah. Humans of the sea. And then it goes into talking about different like animals and like if their balls are on the inside or outside of them, but it's just at the beginning. That's all it is about dolphins. And then there's a little like notation, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe the notation clears something up and goes, you know, that was back before people really knew what dolphins are. No. Half human, half fish. Half fish, half human. What is this? What am I looking at here? Why does it say dolphins are fruitful and multiply by coupling with human beings? What are dolphins? Said Rabbi Judah, humans of the sea. Humans of the sea. We've heard a lot of weird shit about dolphins, right? We've heard a lot of weird shit about dolphins. And it feels like sometimes they are hiding about what dolphins really are all about. Hear my mom playing with the cats. Help settle them down before bed. But yeah, is that interesting? So yeah, I've been doing my studies. Doing all my studies, I found out my family had to give up being Jews during the Spanish Inquisition. They were forced to be Catholic. I think a lot of them did die, and then moved to Mexico. That was something I learned too. The more you know, the more you don't know. It's also giving me some more clues as to who might who I'm pretty sure was, you know, in my life, and my mentor and advertising dude and Chi-Chi and their family's really been helping me out with that a lot. So yeah, and then understanding all these texts, because I wouldn't understand any of this if it wasn't for them. So yeah, plus I'm actually enjoying having the tabernacle instead of, I don't know, I like how things are separated out in here, and you know, a lot of stuff, you know. I'll be eventually reading some of the other books, but I don't know. The one thing I think is interesting is that back in the day, a lot of people used to take a lot of, like, they used to put a lot of, like, stock in, like, dreams and visions. And, like, nowadays, if you have a dream or a vision, you have a mental health issue. You have psychosis. But back in the day, it was like, hey, you know, it's okay. You were talking to an angel, you know. You saw an angel. You saw, you know, God, or an emanation of God, or whatever. God talked to you, right? But nowadays, if somebody claimed those things, you would say they were freaking crazy. And it's like, what changed? What changed? You know? I talk about that with my mentor, too. And that just, you know, the difference between religion and faith and philosophy and beliefs, and, you know, and then beliefs we tell ourselves to keep us going another day, and life's philosophies. So, yeah. I am going to go back to, I probably was going to be, I've been reading the Testaments. Where is my Testaments book? I've been reading the Testaments. I actually found a lady who's reading it. Because I like, at night, I like having the book in front of me and then having it read to me, because sometimes I start getting kind of tired, and so it's still kind of nice to listen to the book. But I also will pause it, and I'll be able to go back over, you know, things and circle it and then talk about it with my mentor, because one of the reasons why he also really wanted me to read this book was because he says there's a lot of parallels between someone like me and not just Taylor Swift, but like other people who had to live in a Gilead situation. And I know, like, you think Taylor Swift is like a billionaire, and everybody just looks at her and says she's privileged because she's got money and she's famous, right? What you don't know is a lot, and my mentor knows a lot about from what happened behind the scenes. And I've told you a lot about Eyes Wide Shut, Andre Blazar, and how Eyes Wide Shut, now everybody's hip with it, which is really great, is that Jeffrey Epstein was mentioned in that. That was about this group, you know? And what's interesting in here and parallels what's going on with the Freemasons and a lot of people who are pushing for this third temple for whatever reason, is the lineage and the whole, this is the sons of Jacob. Well, that's who these people, like the tribe of Levi, traces themselves to, right? And they use it as a reason as to why that they're better than some people, you know? Kind of like how we get in other bloodlines who will trace themselves back to Greek gods or to these constellations who are more Freemason or royalty, you know, European royalty side of things, you know. And then I believe it's the Japanese royal family. But the other thing too is a lot of wars and a lot of things have been to get rid of some of these bloodlines. But anyways, so my mentor said back to this is that there's a lot of parallels that, you know, I might have thought that the way I grew up wasn't, you know, was hard and stuff, but it sometimes maybe not being in cage, gilded cage, even though the gilded cage looks like a mansion and we think it looks pretty because there's like, it's bejeweled and crap like that, right? Yeah, that'd be cute. Yeah. That's a sign, right, Taylor? Brother Taylor? Did you bash into the wall too? I think you did. You look like a liar playing the long game, Brother Taylor. Just saying. Anyways, back to this. So, the gilded cage isn't always, you know, it might look better. It might look great. We might say we want that lifestyle. But if you actually knew all the rules and the way you had to live mentally to deal with all of that, you know, it might look neat. Like, the thing too is, like, in Gilead, everything is aesthetic, right? And they have pretty embroidery and watercolors, and they bake, right? And it looks pretty. Like, Taylor has all that going on, right? But sometimes, maybe, the roughness and the griminess and the unestheticness is actually freedom. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe being invisible is really the freedom. Not having to follow someone else's rules. But then again, I guess if they think you belong to them, they will eventually come for you, like in this book as well. And that's the other reason why my mentor said I needed to read this, was because in this book, spoiler, but like one of the girls, and if you've seen the show The Testaments too, finds out that she actually was born in Gilead, kind of like being related to a certain tribe, and then thinking that because you're the firstborn, you owe them something, or you're gifted and your gifts need to be dedicated to the temple. We're gonna talk more about that. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna read some more. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of free stuff for you to listen to and read and whatnot. And The Handmaid's Tale is also free here on YouTube too. So, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Information becomes fantastic. Wow. The amount of information in the environment under electric conditions is many times greater than that of the normal human environment pre-electric. And there's only one natural response to such a
guys, look who came out with a book about coding with spaghetti. And what is this? What is this book about? What is this book about? I can't read it. I think they described it as a problem solving, like learning how to problem solve. It's about a girl who's creating a machine and coding, because you know Carly Kloss is all about coding. You should start teaching kids about AI. They know more about that. Like coding, I think, I mean, there's a whole conspiracy around why they want to teach all these kids to code. We can talk about that. But, yeah, this also makes me want to pull some spaghetti sauce out of the freezer. But, yeah, Carly Kloss is learning how to problem solve, especially since she's got 3 kids under the age of 5 and a firstling, like we talked about. I don't want to talk about her kids, but she is a mother of a firstling. Carly, if you ever watch this, you can't dedicate your kids to something that they can't consent to. It just doesn't work like that. There are people, and you've probably learned it from your new religion that you married into, because I heard you converted, right? You do Shabbat dinner like a good Jew? Well, you're technically not a good Jew, because we learned what a real good Jew is. It's like the Indian version of a Mahatma. Let's see, where's my spaghetti sauces? Where's my spaghetti sauces? Dig everything out. We got a packed freezer in here. But yeah, there we go. There's my spaghetti sauces. Ha ha ha. Sauce. I know. It's all like in a thing, but I made Sunday gravy. And I made a ton of it. I used pork ribs in it. And, I know you're supposed to like, I put sausage in it too, but you put pork ribs or short ribs, or your meat in it, and you do the sauce all day, and it absorbs the flavors in the meat and stuff. Well, I let the meat fall off, and it makes it like a pork meat sauce. I know, not kosher, but I'm Italian too. See, you see how that works, guys? Let me turn off my fan. Do you see how you can marry into something and be like two different religions? Like, those kids are going to have two different cultures, you know? The Kushner culture and mom's culture, right? Do you see how that works? Yeah. We're going to talk about more of that. And, like, people like the Rothschilds. Specifically because it's very interesting that their family never got caught up in anything like an Inquisition or because there's more than just the Holocaust that happened, guys. There has been a culling, sickening as that sounds, of the Jewish people for centuries. And you're just not hip or aware to it because you only look at the last 100 years and what happened in the last 100 years. And you go, well, this is what's happened. I don't understand. Well, you got to look at the last 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years, guys. And you get a better idea. The only problem is that you can't summarize 5,000, 6,000 fucking years into an AI Google summary. That just can't happen. You can't do that. So, like I said, we don't sacrifice our children in any way that they don't choose themselves anymore. We're not doing that anymore. It's a new day. My birthday's October 8th. For those of you watching. Like I said, it's a new day and things have changed. And a lot of people have been problem solving their way out of things for the last 26 years. And they're not demons. Not all of them are demons. Not all of them are angels. Not all of them are, we're learning, you know, dolphins might not be what we actually think they are. That's another topic, you know, I feel like goes with the hybrid thing. Because, like, it's like, well, how did dolphins actually get to be dolphins? It's just, I don't know. You hear all these weird things about dolphins and all these weird laws about dolphins. And then I read that in the Talmud and I'm like, what? Like I said, you are being lied to by a lot of things, like the Moloch thing. You've been lied to about that. This firstborn thing. There is another version outside of the Orthodox Jewish version that Hollywood is cultivating. And then some of those people are then taking their other families' religious practices that are old pagan from Babylonia and I can't even say that. Carthaginians. I know. I was on the phone for 20 minutes and it just could not come out of my fucking mouth still. And I got an F for the day. So whenever you see the name Levi, and you'll see it Levi, you'll see it Levy. There is a lot of variations on that. Those are typically people that are going to be connected to this tribe of Levi that is supposed to inherit a lot of stuff from, Israel. You see the name Conan, Andy Cohen. Sometimes people will name their first kids this name too as a way to retain it, Conan O'Brien. You'll see it spelled a lot of different ways. Sometimes you'll just see Conan or Cone. Sometimes it'll be with a C, sometimes it'll be with a K. That means that these people are connected. It's one of the few remaining lineages that can trace itself back to Moses. And my mentor says there's a lot of debate on who Moses really was, and that if he really was, he was a hybrid. They think he was. And I know he was the son of Levites from what I read, but they put him in the river. But then it's weird how they say he was born of water, but it was another way to say he came out of the water. I know, it's just interesting. So, there's a lot of things we can talk about. And then, he grew up in the Egyptian, Moses, under the Pharaoh. So, he learned a lot about, the Egyptians that, normal people might not have necessarily learned. Or from, the Egyptian priest class and stuff. So, and a lot of that, we've lost as well. Or people believe that, so, yeah. The more you know, the more you don't know. 3 kids under 5. Problem solving with spaghetti. Yeah. The Italians always resorted to eating spaghetti when things got hard because it was cheap and easy. Kenneth Anger said that. The guy who used to be the wizard person over at the Chateau Marmont. He can link himself to this tribe of Levi. I think that's why he got to be like a special wizard and stuff and sit on his ass over at the Chateau Marmont and cast spells and fuck with the Mason murder, It's a whole mess. That is a whole mess. I have clips of him going, I did the spell of the toad, and got back at all them, and it's fucking weird. Anyways, so, I'm gonna probably end this so I can edit it. We'll do some more research, but that's about where we're at with that, is we know what Taylor's little, what that's all about, right? Yeah. We know, the Masons are hooked up with these higher level people that are over in Israel, and they want to do this third temple, and it's why. What are those 2 fault lines crossing over? Is it gas? What kind of gas is it? Is it radioactive? I don't know. That could be radioactive because, you can get radon deposits. I just wonder what it is. I get the feeling it's like a gas or something, and they were using it as a power source. Because then there's parts in the Talmud that talks about how Moses would part the mist in the temple, or the mist in the temple like he parted the sea. And then he would go into it. Yeah, they also mentioned there was like an oracle plate in the Ark of the Covenant. But it worked better in the first temple than it did in the second temple. That in the second temple, it did not work as well. Whatever that fucking means. Like I said, I'm going to link this. I'm going to link the website that has the Talmud that Jeffrey Epstein's relative translated. Okay? Hopefully it doesn't go missing. Someone doesn't realize it. It's so funny. From what I heard, that there was nowhere online you could find this version of the Babylonian Talmud. And then here I find this website, and it, like at the top it goes, it took us 15 years, but we did it. And I'm like, yes, thank you. I don't have to, you know, borrow those from my mentor. I don't have to source that online. Yeah. I'll have free shit link for you. Remember, all these stars are yours. I gave them to you. You're a person. You have a soul. You're conscious. You live on this earth. You are important. Fuck whatever you're related to. Whatever. Sometimes the best families are the ones you create on your own. You know? Like, sometimes people will use your family lineage or the fact that you're related to them as a manipulation tactic to get you to feel sorry for them, to get you to do things for them that you wouldn't normally do. And yes, you love your family, but you also got to love them enough to let them know when they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, that God would punish them for. We'll be talking about that more, right? Oh, that's a sign. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one, where we are all moving forward into a new myth, a new future. I'll see you there.
Problem solving is something that schools generally don't teach you. You know, a lot of people don't have a good generalized approach to problem solving. They're not thorough, don't consider all the possibilities, prepare themselves with the right information. If you can develop a kind of generalized approach to problem solving, it's surprising how it helps you in anything.
I don't think. I know.
Every 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.